welcome to this episode of MediaUpConversations, a platform where communication, media, and related professionals and scholars share insights on topical concepts, strategies, and tools. MediaUp is powered by Jack Smith Professional Development Series, in line with its mission to facilitate knowledge sharing between the town and the down. My name is Ifeanyichukwu Dinwoke. I am your host. On this episode of MediaUpConversations, we are beaming our searchlight on corporate communication. Our goal is to find out how to execute corporate communication for small and large organizations in these days of social media, blog, and digital media. Our guest today is Mr. Obi Emekekwue, who is a corporate communication guru with decades of experience in corporate communication in multinationals. Emekekwue is the president of Dell Web Consult Limited, which provides African-focused strategic communication and business advisory services with an emphasis on financial sector. Until April 2020, he was director and global head of communication and event management at the African Export-Import Bank, AFIM Bank, where he led the development, design, and management and implementation of communication strategy and managed annual budget of excess of $10 million. Prior to AFIM Bank, he worked for 18 years at the United Nations leading communication team at various UN agencies in New York and in the field. He's also an alumnus of Harvard Business School Executive Education Program. Mr. Emekekwue, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of MediaUpConversations.
Thank you very much for having me, Ifeanyi. It's a pleasure to be here today.
I hope you forgive all the mispronunciation of names and your profile. Please forgive me, sir.
No problem.
All right, let's start from the beginning. A little bit about your background. I want you to tell us a bit about how did you get into corporate communication?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, let me say what a pleasure it is for me to be able to join you here today for this interview. In terms of my background, I went into communications right from my early days. I obtained a degree in mass communication from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and following that, I did my national youth service as a journalist at NTA Ibadan, where I was a news commentator and a sub-editor. After that, my first job as a graduate was as a sub-editor at the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria in Ikoyi. I did that for a couple of months before I now obtained a job at the News Agency of Nigeria. I spent the next 11 years or so at NAN and ended up as the North America / United Nations correspondent of the News Agency of Nigeria. That was how I ended up at the UN, where I now eventually transferred my services. I started working for the UN. Subsequently, I now got a job at the African Export-Import Bank, or AFREXIM Bank, where I eventually concluded my international service in April 2022. So right now, I now run this consulting service, which is called Dell Reef Consult. And basically, like you mentioned, what we try to do is to assist Africa, companies that are interested in Africa, especially financial services companies, trying to operate in Africa with their communications efforts to make sure that they are operating within with the best results in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So that's essentially the background to me. In the course of my career, I have worked in various continents. I've worked in North America. I worked in Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific region. I have also worked in Egypt, where AFREXIM Bank is located. So that's the breadth of my experience. So in a nutshell, that is me.
Okay, now not everybody who graduated from mass comm like you did, maybe yourself, rose to this height. Okay. What do you think? What can you attribute your rise from News Agency of Nigeria, Radio Nigeria, to being head of a bank, an institution like AFIM Bank and AFREXIM Bank, and the United Nations? Yeah. What do you attribute that progress or success to?
Thank you very much. I think at the end of the day, I think having a good foundation is really key in whatever one is doing. I think that I guess I'm biased, but still I feel that mass communication at the University of Nigeria is probably the best place to prepare yourself for a career in communications in Nigeria. I don't know what things are like today, but at the time I was there, it was very well grounded. You had the best teachers, you had quality education, and anybody who came out with a degree from that institution who hold its own anywhere under any circumstances. And also you also have to, engage in what is called continuous learning. You can't ever stop. You got to keep improving yourself. So despite having a good grounding, you still need to make yourself better. So I believe that ability to keep adding to yourself, eventually, guides you to, places you in a good position for better things. So even though I had that degree from Nsukka, I still went ahead to do a master's degree in international relations, which helped me. I also took out a postgraduate diploma in international diplomacy and international law. So those are all part of the things that have helped. I took the time to go to Harvard University, attend their business school for additional certification. So when you add up all of that up, they help to position you for progress in life. And then you have to take chances. Sometimes, we get too comfortable where we are and we don't really try to do other things. But you need to take chances. When chances come, opportunities come, you need to take advantage of them to the best of your ability. So in my estimation, those are some of the things that helped me to advance in my career. I don't know how successful I've been. I left it for others to judge. But that is me. Thank you.
Okay, now let's dive deeper into the core of our conversation: corporate communication.
Yeah.
First thing I want to understand: does corporate communication apply only to big establishments, or does it apply to both big establishments and small businesses? Say a small business located on a street in Enugu, maybe the business street of Enugu State, Nigeria, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's a very big mistake for people to think that corporate communication is only applicable to large corporations. Communication is the lifeblood of any business that deals with human beings. You need to be able to communicate what you do to your audience, to your customers, to your board members, to whoever has an interest in what you're doing. You need to let them know what you're doing and to be able to generate an interest in your activities. And the only way you can do that is through corporate communications. Of course, you have to take into account that not everybody has the same capacity or capability. Therefore, a larger corporation will probably have more of the wherewithal to engage extensively in communication. But even without having formal corporate structure, it's still very important for you to be able to communicate your ideals, your objectives, and your products to your various publics. So it does not apply only to large corporate entities. It applies to both the large corporate entities and to small organizations. It simply means that you have to be able to, present yourself appropriately to your various corporates, to your various publics.
Okay, now I understand that discussing how corporate communication can be executed, whether for small or big business, may require actually volumes or days of lectures.
Yes.
But in a nutshell, can you describe for us what it actually entails to execute a corporate communication campaign or strategy?
I think the key to being able to execute a corporate communication strategy is, that is the strategy itself, is really what is the key. You have to know the goals and objectives, the vision of the company that you're dealing with. Once you articulate that, then you now use that as the basis for identifying the kind of information you need to communicate to various entities within your set public. So you are dealing with the board members, you're dealing with staff, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with customers and all that. And you have to have different sets of information you need to communicate to them. And you have to have different ways to deal with them. So that ability to now use that strategy to reach out to them is what's involved in the corporate communication strategy. You need to be able to assemble a team that understands the importance of communication. You need to have that team in place and design roles for each person. This is where you fit in, this is what you need to be doing, and make sure that things are executed according to the strategy. The mistake that sometimes happens is that you have a strategy and you don't have a proper implementation plan for that strategy, and then it just sits there. But if it gets implemented properly and you have a good strategy, there's nothing that should stop you from achieving your set objectives. I must also say that the success of any corporate communication strategy rests to a large extent on the CEO of the entity you're dealing with. So if you have a CEO who understands the value of communication and is able to implement that strategy, it helps a lot, because essentially the CEO of the company is the face of that company, and his ability or her ability to deliver rests largely on how well he or she is able to communicate the visions of the organization. So, those are some of the things that need to come into play, when you're dealing with the corporate communications.
Okay, now there's something you said that one of the factors you pointed out as regards success for corporate communication is assembling the right team.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that we learn from communication classes is that media and marketing channels have changed seriously. Changed, of course. It's no longer the traditional newspaper, magazine, and radio we know.
Yeah.
There's now blog, Twitter, and all of that.
Yes.
So, what in an age like we are now, what kind of team is a corporate communication department looking at assembly to be able to execute a proper communication campaign? Do they have to get digital media strategies in their team or outsource it?
The decision to have team members within or to outsource is really more of there's a financial side to it, and there's also the question of what kind of capacity you have within a company. The point is that you have to be able to deliver both you have to be able to deliver the actual result that you want to achieve. So whether it's done internally or externally becomes a secondary consideration. What is important is to make sure that you have a plan in place that drives that implementation strategy. For me personally, I think that to the extent possible, most of the work should probably be done internally. But I also understand that not everybody has the resources to be able to do that. So when you don't have that resources, or when you don't have the expertise in-house, then of course, you have to go outside and get that. But remember, I had also mentioned something about the need to constantly improve yourself. Today, communications is very dynamic. Things are changing almost on a daily basis. For you to remain at the best, you need to constantly change and to improve yourself. So both yourself and your team members need to be always engaged in learning new things. Today, you are talking about blogs and digital media and all that. 10 years ago, these things did not exist. So you can't continue to deal with, you can't deal in 2022 with what you used to deal with in 2010. Times have changed. So you need to make sure that you are constantly getting your team members to improve themselves as you improve yourself as well. So that's the only way you can really stay on top of your game. If you don't do that, then you're going to be left out and you're going to lose. So that is something to keep in mind when you're doing corporate communications.
Now, you said that the success of corporate communication for an organization lies on the CEO. That is, it depends on how much emphasis the CEO places on communication, especially its relevance.
Yes.
And where does the CMO, that's the Chief Marketing Officer, come in a corporate communication?
Overall, let me put it this way: everybody within a corporation have different roles to play, but everybody contributes in their own way to the corporate communication in your strategy implementation. I'm just saying that the CEO sets the tone. So if the CEO understands the value of communication and gives it the right priority, then everybody will toe the line, and that will ensure that you are able to deliver what you're supposed to deliver. But if the CEO kind of downplays communication, then other people are going to look at him and feel, well, maybe it's not so important, let's give priority to other things. And when that happens, then you now begin to find that you are not able to deliver in terms of the quality corporate communication that you're trying to achieve. So, that's the point I was trying to make, really. I wasn't saying that, that because he's key, others are no longer important. Everybody's important in their own way. So that's my point.
Okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just don't know, you are still listening to MediaUp Conversations powered by Jacksonite Professional Development Series. And today we are looking at corporate communication for maximum impact. Our guest has been Mr. Obi Emekekwue, who has been a corporate communication expert for decades. When we come back after this break, we'll get into other aspects of conversation, including how do you use influencer marketing for corporate communication, how do you remain in charge of your image in a society where customers and users generate content, where we no longer depend on PR, and then some other aspects of corporate communication. So please stay with us. When we come back after this break, we'll get into other aspects of the discussions.
As graduates of the University of Nigeria Nsukka Mass Communication Department, we call ourselves Jacksonites. Years after graduation, we have not lost touch with our roots. We give back. We lend our shoulders for current students to stand on and get ahead. We donate resources and facilitate seminar sessions. Our flagship initiative, the Jacksonite Professional Development Series, JPDS, has become robust and sustainable through the efforts of Chinedumba, the steering committee chair, and her formidable working groups. Since July 2021, when our first quarterly seminar debuted to date, we have continued to grow our channels for enriching our target audience with the launch of 3 brands, namely Knowledge Hub, MediaUp Conversations, and JPDS Podcasts. So far, we have had 9 seminars with 15 facilitators and over 1,000 participants. The good news is that if you missed any of them, you can access them and other resources such as MediaUp Conversations, podcasts, and blogs with a click of a button. To access all our resources, visit jacksonitespds.com to get notifications on our latest blogs, podcasts, events, and resources. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at JacksonitesPDS. Share your feedback by emailing hello@jacksonitespds.com.
Welcome back. So we've looked at corporate communication in small and large organizations, and the role of CEO and how every member has to play a role to ensure that it works well. Now, going forward, we want to look at other things, which is one of them is these days, media organizations don't just generate content about their organization. They don't own the stories again. Sometimes users tell their stories for them, and sometimes they even find themselves catching up. A very recent case is Twitter said introduced this blue tick for $8 case, and then I'm forgetting the company now. Somebody registered the company name and made an announcement and made them lose their stock. So how do organizations now take control of their image in an age where users, social media commentators, bloggers, and influencers can take over the company's story?
That's a very important question, and given today's environment, it's really very critical that companies, do everything to take control of their own storyline. But yes, it's a reality. In today's world, anybody with a camera can generate a story. Anybody with a pen can generate a story, and it's no longer the days when you have to go to a newspaper to get your story out. Anybody can create content anywhere. So the only way that a corporation can stay on top of things is that you have to constantly monitor the environment. You have to have a way to stay on top of what is going on and be able to track the times that anytime your company is mentioned, you have to be able to track it. And if it's something that requires a reaction, you react immediately and take control of the narrative to the extent you can. So basically, there is not a lot more that you can really do, because as I said, everybody now is a news content generator. So even if you tamp down on one, somebody else can be doing the exact same thing on the other side. But if you have to have a good story on your own side so that you're able to counter these things. And when things come up, people should be able to have quick access to you to verify what is going on from your own side. Either that you have a very easily accessible website or some other source where it's not difficult to obtain your information. You have to put up your story in a reasonable time so that you are able to counter anything that comes up. But these are different times, and you have to constantly innovate and try to improve your ability to generate content that tells your own story the way you want it told.
Now, sometimes this can happen in a twinkle of an eye, and if care is not taken, you start losing your company stocks, start bleeding if it's not addressed. So, from a strategic point of view, do you think there are preparations companies can make so they are prepared to react quickly? You talked about being easily accessible. Are there things an organization can do to be able to react very quick before too much damage is done to their image?
Yes, there's something that companies can do. It is called crisis communication. Every company that is serious should have a crisis communication plan in place. It means that, before any crisis happens, you already have arrangements or plans in place that as soon as something like this happens, this is who is responsible, this is who should be contacted, this is who should have the information to share, and this is how that information should be shared. You have that already in place and not wait for the crisis to come up. In the world we have today, we are living from crisis to crisis. So unless you are prepared for it, you are going to be caught, flat-footed. But if you have the crisis plan in place, then you are ready. Once anything happens, you already have some sense of how to handle it. Who is going to be the spokesperson, who can address that issue, who can counter it. And so once it happens, you just go directly to them immediately and make sure you put out the right information to counter maybe the wrong impression that's being created. That is the only way. Without a crisis plan in place, it is extremely difficult for you to be able to really operate in today's world.
Okay. As part of innovation or trying to catch up or follow the trend, I've seen companies who use brand ambassadors, celebrity endorsements. Celebrity endorsements has been here for a long time, but what they now call social media influencer is a very recent thing that came with social media. Do you think in an African context, celebrity endorsement and by extension, influencer marketing really works?
I think it works, but I tend to think that it has to also do with the particular industry or particular the nature of the sector that's involved. In some sectors, I'm not sure that they are very effective, but in sectors where it's easy to influence, you're trying to influence customers, you're trying to influence certain people, it might work, So you have to kind of balance it out. I, for instance, don't feel that if your primary targets or clients are, let's say, for instance, corporate entities, and you go and hire a social media influencer, I don't think that will have any real impact on your bottom line. But if what you're doing is some kind of entertainment based, in some kind of entertainment sector, or an area where such people, really, most of your clients are customers or consumers of those things, then you get somebody, a social media influencer, within that sector, that will be very effective. So, it's a matter of, weighing, looking at all sides and deciding whether it is worth it or not. But I won't give a blanket answer, yes, it's okay, or no, it's not okay.
I want to use a case of influencer marketing in Nigeria. There's a beer company, I think it's Hero. Yes. Okay, not Hero, it's Life actually. They use Pete Edochie. Pete Edochie is a big Nollywood actor and his son for their ads. Now, his son went and took a second wife, which is not something that resonates with a lot of people, especially women and some conservative persons around here. If you are the head of corporate communication for Life, for example, would you withdraw? Because it generated negative reactions for days. Yul Edochie was trolled on social media, condemned, vilified. People used it to preach in church and all of that. If you are the head of corporate communication for Life at that time, would you have withdrawn him because of that reaction, or is there a way to cash in on the buzz generated around him because of the second wife too?
Thank you very much. That's a good one. See, that's one of the risks in using people as ambassadors, because when you do that, you are essentially endorsing that person's character and associating that person's character with your product. Now, for many organizations, what they do is that they sign an agreement that requires that ambassador to live within certain defined roles. You can't go outside of that to go and do certain things as long as you remain that ambassador, and that is the way to go, because whatever you do when you are an ambassador, impact directly on the company you are an ambassador for, and that is exactly what you just described now. When the damage is done, it is difficult to now correct it. If this gentleman got married to a second wife, and that is something that is not really very acceptable to your audience, what do? It's damage control at this point. So it's a tough choice. It is a tough choice. If you're already committed, if you throw him out, you're going to generate some more controversy. You're going to lose some clients and customers because of that. On the other hand, if you keep him, you're going to irritate many other customers. So you have to look at it and say, well, what are my risks? What do we stand to lose, by retaining him or by throwing him out, and then see which one makes more sense to you. But of course, if he does something that is really, really serious and which goes against the values of your organization, then of course you have no choice. You have to really let him go. So in this case, I think you have to go back to the vision and value of your organization, and use that as a basis to assess whether to retain or to end that relationship with the ambassador.
Okay, I got your answer there. Thank you very much for that. Moving on, okay. I want to look at some organizations manage their corporate communication. Some companies take conservative approach to their messaging. Others are more daring, like Nigeria's Sterling Bank.
Yes.
Nigeria's Sterling Bank is used to do maybe what some people call controversial social media posts or ads. Case in point is that this past Easter, they made, people are doing different creatives about Jesus rising and all of that. So they put out a creative that talks about just as Jesus rise, just like aggregate. They compared Jesus' rise from the grave to rise of aggregate bread, and then it became a problem. It trended for a while. It got to the point where APCON had to intervene. They had to apologize and all of that. Now, sometimes it works for their own good because some person who don't know Sterling Bank is not one of the top, in my estimation. Yeah. They get to know him. And so I'm asking, from your own, you are both coming from back and let me say old school and new school. What do you think? Do you advocate a conservative approach? Like First Bank typically doesn't do any. They don't take chances. They stick with what is understandable. They don't go out of their way to do crazy things, quotes. Yeah. So what do you advocate? Do you advocate the daring approach which can generate buzz around social media and get you known, or conservative approach which will not generate buzz but get your message across to those who already your follower? What do you advocate, sir?
That's another good one. Again, something like that, I think my assessment will be that, again, you have to look at the sector in which you operate. Now, if you operate in a sector where, things are done conservatively and things are, organized, are structured and all that, I would say stay in the conservative side. Now, if you are in a sector where that is, amenable to changes, innovations, and quick thinking and all that kind of thing, then you can afford to go with these different kinds of approaches. These are things that you have to really think through properly. Because certain things just don't fit with certain organizations. If you are dealing with a very structured organization where there's a lot of hierarchy and all that, and then you bring in something that is, so wacky, if you like, it will not sit well, both with the corporation itself and with the customers and the clients of that organization. But if let's say you are, a technology company that is boarding and that you're trying to get more eyeballs to your company and get more people to know about you and all that, and then you go and use some approach that's gets everybody talking about you. That is a good thing for you. So that would be my approach to it.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. We are winding down, and then before we do that, I wanted to please give a small startup advice, maybe a tip, a winning tip actually. He is not known, he wants to come into the market. How does he announce his presence in a way that gets him known, and then people can start asking questions, how do we do business? For a startup, a small business, whether a service, product, irrespective of the industry, what one winning communication strategy can the person deploy to get known almost instantly? Remember, this startup doesn't have large budget.
Yes. I think the best approach, in my view, will be to look at the kind of service that you're trying to provide and see how it is different from what everybody else is doing, and then find a way to tie that to something that is important to the general public. So either in terms of getting somebody who is very high up to endorse it, or just creating some kind of event around it so that people begin to ask questions, who is this person, what is this company, and all that, but you need to articulate that vision of the product that you're trying to sell and how it really impacts people. What service does it deliver to the people that no other person can do? How is it unique? So it's the uniqueness of your product that is going to make you stand out. If you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, then you're not very different from the others. But if you're doing something that is delivering a distinct service that is different from everybody else, that will make you stand out. So that will be my advice on this.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I think I have one more question I just want to ask. Somebody wants to get, please just allow me one more question. Somebody wants to get into corporate communication and grow big like you do. There's an undergraduate or a graduate student. What advice would you give the person about getting, not mass communication, corporate communication? How advice would you give the person for getting in and actually rising very high?
To get into corporate communications and rise high in it, my advice would be get the best education you can. Try to get a job in an organization where there are prospects for growth. If you can, that will be the thing. And then when you get in there, distinguish yourself. Don't go there and just mark time and do your job every day and go home. Distinguish yourself, stand out, so that you become the person that everybody talks about and asks for whenever something comes up. And whenever you do a job, everybody picks it up and says, "Oh, this was done by Ifeanyi." They don't worry about it. We can be sure that this is well done. If you can do that, I see you rising. But you need to really get very good education, and that is the basis, and then you can keep growing from there.
Thank you very much, sir, for all of these answers. Thank you very, very much for sharing your thoughts generously with us. We're glad to have you on this edition of MediaUp. Thank you, sir.
It's my pleasure. It's been very, very nice being here with you. Thank you very much.
All right, this was all the question on this episode of MediaUp Conversations with Mr. Obi Emekekwue. Thank you again for staying with me up to this point. Until we bring you another exciting conversation, you can catch up with other episodes and more resources from us across social media and YouTube at Jacksonite PDS. To learn more about us, please visit our website on www.jacksonitepds.com. My name is Ifeanyichukwu Dinwoke. Do have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you.